Thank you, Jerry, old friend, and good morning, everyone. I'd like to share some of our thoughts about something new happened in social policy of China. Actually, after Louis' presentation, I'd like to talk more about the other part of the policy process. It's about what's happening in the local level. Actually, what's happening from the bottom to the up now. So we'll see the background of the new change, then we'll see what happened, and then what's happening. Then we'll talk about the implications or how to understand what's happening now. Then, just as we talked about this morning, the change of China is so quick. So we identified these three factors as a background of the whole social policy change. The first one is the rapid trend of population aging. The second one is a huge amount of migrants. The third one is the thing we all talked about this morning, the changing rule of the government. Okay, let's say now we face the rapid trend of aging population. In 2013, there are almost 10% aging people in China now. And also, we have a very huge group of migrants. There are more than 243 million migrants in 2013. Most of them immigrate in a few provinces in East China. Then, as we talked about this morning, from 2002, the rule of the government is changing as the shift from the social goal shifts from centering on economic development to constructing a harmonious society. So the role of the government is transforming from so-called the administrative government to service-providing government, and which means more and more responsibilities on livelihood improvement has been taken by government. Actually, most of them has been taken by local governments. So the government turns to more and more unlimited. How to understand it is one researcher mentioned, actually it's our boss, Professor Wang Chunguang, mentioned in one of his articles that now the China society is changing from a so-called market society to a administrative society, which means as the government take more and more responsibilities of welfare, so it tends to control the society very much. And then let's say what happened in welfare area. We can say in 1990s, it's more like a employment-based social insurance system, including unemployment insurance, pension insurance for employees, urban employee medical insurance. From these schemes, we can say that it's more like, if we compare with what happened in the Western countries, it's more like the period of Bismarck reform. All of this is about the labors. Then from 2002 to about 2008, the universal social security system had begun to construct it, including NCMS, urban resident medical insurance, pension for rural and urban residents, as well as the minimum standard of living in both rural and urban areas. So we can say in this period, this whole welfare model is more like based on a so-called citizenship. how to understand the development, what happened before. From 1990s to the beginning of 21st century, we can say obviously it's from the employment-based to citizen-based, as I said. But these two periods are both production-centered, even in the period began from 2002, because the whole security system aimed to protect people from so-called economic risk, which along with the market reform. So it's also production-centered, even it's based on citizenship. What's the problem of the old welfare model? The first one is because the protection aimed to against the economic risk, so it's not enough in the Asian society, neither to a huge amount of migrants, because on the background of so-called globalization, Asian society and just like the fourization Professor Zhang mentioned this morning, old people and migrants, especially old people and migrants, need more of social service, not only economic protection. So, but if we talk about social service, the state supply fell short of the growing demand for social service. Then, as we talked about, the role of government tends to be unlimited, which leads to more and more conflicts with citizens. It happens more and more in local level. So something interesting happened, that the autonomy of the residents' autonomy is not only the incentive of local resident, but also the incentive, even more strong incentives of local governments. So they need the residents to be self-governance and the users' cooperative service delivering. Then something new happened in social policy since 2008. It shifts from social security construction to social service delivery, and from citizen-based and production-centered to be combined with the settlement-based, and also from unlimited government to plural participations. But the first problem we face now is who provide this service, because in the past decades, the government controls the development of social organizations very tightly. So now, as we mentioned, there's only some public sectors to provide social services. They're obviously not enough. So the first step is the capacity building of these social service providers, then which means it's the development of social organizations. So then we'll see what kinds of social organizations are we talking about. Actually, there are many kinds of social organizations. The government is not support all these kinds of social organizations. They just identified something more helpful to deliver social service. And so we can say these three kinds of, actually two kinds of social organizations linked with these social services more closely. The first one is the social service organizations, which deliver social service directly, such as the social care organizations. The second and the third types are similar, but only in urban and rural area. like social worker organizations in urban area and the rural village organizations with village social workers in rural area. So these two organizations they're not deliver social service directly, but they aimed to enable enable local residents to participate in the policy process, to express their demands to be part of the policy. So through the work of the last two types of organizations, users and residents are enabled not only to participate in the policy process, but also to cooperate to deliver services by themselves. And what is also the local government happy to say? So the development of the social service organizations got more and more support from governments. In March 2013, the Chinese government decided to relax the tight control over social service providing NGOs and relabeled them as social organizations. Then the local authorities also support social organizations by subsidizing them as well as purchasing services from them. By the end of 2013, we can say the total number of social organizations reached 547,000. We can say it grows very rapidly. Now it's almost 10% more than the previous year. So how to understand this new direction? What happened what's happening in China? As Howell mentioned in her latest article, she talked about a concept of welfarist incorporation. She mentioned that this conception refers to a political and economic arrangement between the state and organized society, whereby selected civic organizations are invited by the state to assist in the implementation of policy. It is distinct from the idea of corporatism, which is the base of the so-called civil society. So in this background, the social organization and the local government are more like partners. They cooperate together. And also, from this, we can say the growing of competition may increase the efficiency of social service as well as users' rights. But as the local authorities purchase more services from social organizations, social organizations tend to move closer to government instead of users. We can say the social organizations get more space, get more resource to develop, especially through the purchase from government, but just with price of their independence. Yeah. But if we think about the last two types of organizations, the social organizations aim to enable people that along with the improvement of users' ability, users will have deeper influence on distribution of welfare resource because they participate more in this process. As I mentioned, it's just the beginning part of a policy, or to say it's a new social policy models. It's just moving from bottom to up. So there's, we don't know what will happen in the future. But from optimistic potential, we can see the optimistic potential outcomes is maybe China is transforming from market society to a so-called welfare society because of the plural participation, which means maybe we can avoid the risk of so-called welfare states because the government invite more and more stakeholders in this process. Not only that the government take all these responsibilities of welfare. But as Pierre mentioned in 2015, the welfare system should focus on social goals rather than on social services. So, which means in a welfare society, it's characterized by two key factors. The first one is diversified social services. The second one is plural participation and responsibilities. If we reach this, we will try to reach the social goals along with these two factors, I think maybe we can have this more optimistic outcomes. But we also have much more potential risks, such as the absence of complete institution, including financing scheme, regulation rules, participating way, as well as the potential conflict of governing logic between government and civil society, obviously, which will happen in the future. So we have just started, we'll see. Thank you.